Hmm? And that's exactly what he does in your mind too, and in your heart. The battleground's you. He's fighting over you. He's trying to convince you. And some of you are that bad you don't need much convincing. But it's nothing to do with it. You see, if my righteousness is what I did, and my whole acceptance of God was the way I lived, then basically my salvation would be of works. It would be like the Catholics. As long as I do this, this and this, I'm going to be all right and God's going to bless me. And if anything goes wrong, then I must have stepped out of the way somewhere. I better find out where it was I stepped out of the way. But you get sick because you get sick. Time and chance happeneth to every man. You might walk out in front of a car because you weren't watching where you were going. Now the car is hard. And if it's going quick, you'll get dented. And if you're overweight, so will the car. But you know, it doesn't mean that for some reason there's some great judgment of God. It just means that you should have watched where you were going, dummy. There's no great message from on high. But I'll tell you what, when you get to the curb next time, you'll look left and right, won't you? Or won't you? And you see, sometimes there's lessons, and fear is a natural protection. People lose fear. But let me tell you, it's not some great judgment of God that's befallen you. It's just something happens. When you get up in the morning and you go and plug the kettle in and you turn it on and the fuse blows, God's not angry with you. So you can't have a cup of tea this morning. It's just the fuse blew. Something went wrong. And yet, because of the way we've been taught for years, we've got this great idea that if someone has a disaster in their lives, it's because they deserve it. True, isn't it? You really hope for something and it all goes wrong. See, that's superstition. It's not Christianity. Job could turn round at the end of all these things and all these helpful suitors coming along to make him miserable, and he could say, though he slay me, yet will I bless him. I'm not going to curse God and die. I don't care. I love him no matter what happens in my life. And what he was doing, he was making sure that in eternity the devil could never say and charge and throw in God's teeth that people only loved God for what they could get out of it. Now that's the worshippers of the devil. And the devil wanted to say the only reason people will ever follow you, God, is for the blessings and the benefits. And God wanted to show the devil for all eternity that that wouldn't be true. And he knew there was one upright man in all the earth he could trust with that mission. And his name was Job. And he says, you do anything to Job, and I know in the integrity of his heart he's still going to bless me. He's not going to get bitter. He's not going to get twisted. He's not going to turn around and get angry with me. And he's not going to do anything. He loves me. And he loves me because he loves me for my nature and the way I am. He doesn't love me because of the benefits, the blessings, the protection, the healing hand, the prosperity. He loves me just because he loves me. And God wanted to show the devil, and he wanted to show all of us, that we can have a loving heart in adversity. We can have a loving heart going through all darkness and blackness and difficulties, and it's nothing to do with blessing. And he wants to show the devil that. The great wisdom of God is that it's obedience from a loving heart in spite of everything. The great wisdom of God is that it's obedience from a loving heart in spite of everything. Don't ever come to God thinking you'll get blessed alone. Sooner or later he's going to cause the devil to know that you're going to love him whatever happens. He'll wait till you get to the place where you're upright and where you're perfect and where things have gone, and then he'll say, right, now he's ready for the testing. Until then he's going to put a hedge round you and he won't let the devil near you till he's got your heart dealt with. But when he has, he's going to say, right, now off you go, boy. And the devil will come down with all his thunder and his venom, and he'll send all sorts of things and all sorts of people, and he'll try and get you to curse God. But you won't. Because there's a God who's done something in your heart that you're loving whatever he does. And that is the true Christian spirit. And you see, the devil wanted to say that doesn't exist. And in a lot of people it doesn't exist. I remember that time when I was at that place where my daughter was ill and everything had gone wrong. They couldn't find out what was wrong with my wife. She'd slowed down to 0. We couldn't figure out what it was. She could hardly walk from the bedroom to the kitchen, and it wasn't far, but she just hadn't got the energy. It would take her 2 hours to dress the kids, and no one knew what the problem was, and we didn't know. She got myxedema, and the devil tried everything. But one thing I knew right through it all, was a God who loved me, who was faithful, and I didn't know how he was going to get me through it, and I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I knew God. And I knew the God of love wasn't going to let it all fall down. I didn't know how he was going to answer it, but I knew I would get an answer from heaven. And I knew it would work out for good. And he would take the evil circumstances the devil had wrought and all the things it brought into my life, and he would cause good to come out of it. That I knew, because he loved me. That's the God I knew. God had worked sufficiently in my heart to bring me to that place where I wouldn't go against him. And every individual has to come to that place and that testing before they can stand up and say, I know. And it's a wonderful place to be. That's why Paul wrote, and he said we have to know how to be in want and how to abound. We've got to know both sides of the coin. And anyone who goes into ministry, before he can ever qualify for ministry, he's got to know how to go with a sweet spirit through the trials and the fiery furnace. And if he can't do that, he's unqualified. And thank God he's given us a spirit that will take us through. It's the Spirit of Christ. Because you won't get through on your own. That's for sure. Your spirit will fail, but he's our righteousness. Amen? We'll all fall down, but he won't. We'd all fail the test, but he never does. And his spirit keeps us.